Hi there, my name is Amy Apoliti and I'm here with a fantastic group of yoga teachers, and we were just having an informal conversation about sequencing. And sequencing is interesting because there's a lot of different styles, a lot of viewpoints, a lot of personal preferences, and so it brings up a lot of questions because we don't know what's right, what's wrong, and the thing is, nothing is wrong. All of it's right, and it's a matter of what you really resonate with. So I'm going to ask these guys, do you have any questions about sequencing and that kind of thing?
I do.
Oh, Lynn, yeah.
So I teach Vinyasa Flow, and I know that a lot of people plan their classes around a peak pose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And I just wondered, what are the pros and cons of that?
Beautiful. So yeah, a peak pose is when you think of a fairly challenging pose. Sometimes we call it an apex pose that you want to progress up to. And there's a lot of advantages to it, but a lot of styles, like you say, don't teach to do that. And I think that the pros and cons of that are interesting. A pro is that when you have a peak pose and the students know it, then they're going to be really motivated to get to that pose and to listen to every instruction that you have, because they're going to be like, I want to do that peak pose. I want to do that peak pose. Oh my God. And they're like, what did she say about taking the thigh back? What did she say about taking the shoulder back? So that they're ready because they're excited. Like, whoa, we're going to do Vashisthasana. I've always wanted to try that, especially if you demonstrate it at some point or you tell them or show a picture of it. So they're going to have some motivation when they know what's coming. And the disadvantage is that, you could show up and you really want to do this peak pose, but like nobody can do the pose, or it kind of creates a goal-oriented type of energy, and you really just had a vibe that you wanted of more, let's just flow and feel good and see where things go, and just get into more of a mood, as opposed to, we're gonna get to this mountaintop and get to the peak, and then we're gonna cool down, So it depends on what kind of mood you really want for your class. And I think it's great not to have a peak pose, really. I think, there's times when you just wanna flow. Sometimes you wanna put on some groovy tunes and get everyone into a wonderful space. So I think those are really the pros and cons. Anybody else have any feedback on that or anything to add? Yeah.
It's fun sometimes to start class with soliciting recommendations or specific postures that your students want. And sometimes if you do plan and you had a plan and then somebody has like a bad major injury that's contraindicated for the posture you were hoping for, or has a different part of their body that they were hoping to suggest a movement towards, it's difficult to maneuver that. Any feedback for that?
Yeah, so she's saying, well, what if you come to class and you've got this peak pose, but there's people in the room who have like an injury that's really not going to work for that pose. That's a really good point. You need to be able to ask your students, is there anyone that would have an issue with that? I can help you modify. So on the one, you could keep the peak pose, find out who's got the problem, and then help them modify, because many times the pose that's the most poisonous for the person is the one that's going to heal them if they do it modified with props. So that's one thing. But another thing, when you are soliciting for recommendations, you just want to make sure that you're not coming across as you've not prepared. Like, I really didn't prepare my class today, so do you guys have any things you want to work on? Like if you come across that way, it's really, one, not professional, and two, the students don't feel like you really cared enough about them to prioritize them enough to come up with a plan before you came in. So if you didn't plan, it's okay, but don't make it obvious that you didn't plan. And I think it's fun to ask sometimes for recommendations, like, hey, we're a relatively small group. Do you have any, I have a plan for you, but do you have any poses you really are dying to work on? And then that's fun too. You can also ask on Facebook before class. You can ask beforehand for recommendations. Great, great questions, you guys.